Coming up in 1 minute on the Jackin Around podcast.
So I wanted to come to the States so bad. I grew up on everything American. So I found this hostel right across the street from the Chinese theater on Hollywood Boulevard. They're like, so where are you staying? I said, well, at a hostel down the street. And they go, no, you're not. You're coming with us. You're going to play in Stargun. The shooter kind of took care of me, you know, don't worry about the rent. And so when you told his parents, you know, they said, well, that's great. You know, well, how about you guys come for a weekend and we get to meet him. And I slept on the couch. It's Sunday morning. I smell food, and then I hear music. And I look up, and it's Waylon and Jesse sitting at the piano, singing. When I was in LA that summer, so it's 2006, I came to see you play at Whiskey A Go-Go. Taylor Swift was opening up for you, acoustic that night. It's like a radio show.
You picked the wrong fucking band. You should have gotten in Taylor Swift's band.
I could know. Since I became Citizen, so that was 2016. That was something that was just as big at anything I did musically. You know, like your wildest dreams. It's becoming an American.
This is the Jackin Around podcast, hosted by two-time Academy of Country Music Award winner Jack Ingram. And now, here's Jack.
The Jackin Around podcast is brought to you by Lone Star Dry Goods, a collection of handcrafted quality goods with a truly unique Americana vibe. Visit the world headquarters in the heart of downtown Abilene, Texas and Willow Park, Texas, near Fort Worth. And visit LoneStarDryGoods.com for more information. So we're coming up on episode 7. We're going to be speaking with and visiting with my good buddy, my old pal, my running mate, my band member, Kevin Sciou, a.k.a. Frenchy, a.k.a. Frenchy French Fry Forever, Forget Me Not, Fresca Freedom, Froggy. He's going to tell us a story about how he got over here to America from France, how he stayed over here, and all his travels and travails in between.
The question is...
Found that at a junk shop.
Ah.
Look, it's an empty key. There's no...
Oh. So someone was moving in, but she did something, he did something, and...
something happened somewhere.
The honeymoon was over before it even started.
Are you ready, dude?
We're losing our momentum here.
Losing charm. Losing charm. You know who says that all the time? Yeah. Whenever they're doing like whatever. Miranda. It's like her. It's her.
That's the thing.
Cue to her people. Like, let's get this fucking show on the road.
Losing charm. I like that.
Got the 30. We'll be ready.
Hey man, we're gonna go to Starbucks real quick. Do you?
This is getting ridiculous.
Man, you missed the guitar. Come on. Just rude.
Rude. We ready, rolling?
Yeah. It was ready a couple hours ago.
Oh my God. And how often you have to deal with him like that?
I don't have to deal with him.
You don't have to deal with him. Are we live?
Been live for about 20 minutes. You just haven't known.
Oh, you've been rolling this whole time?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Well, I guess we're live. 3 hours behind schedule.
It's about par for the course with Pivoto. What would you call it? A TPD? Typical Pivoto deal?
Yeah.
No sodas, no beer, no towels.
Spilling water.
The whole rider's X'd out. Mm. All right. Make sure that I got it so you got this next to the guitars kind of, so you can tell what they are.
So, Rogan was talking when he had his podcast in Austin. Right before he finished his podcast in LA, he had Mike Tyson on.
I saw that one.
And Mike Tyson was getting ready for the fight. So he was in full-on mode, like training and everything. And so he said it was so intense in the room. And I was so close to him that I got scared. So when I built the room in Austin, I made the table wider because I knew I'll have him on again and I don't want to deal with it. So he made the table wider.
I've learned a lot about doing a podcast just by watching his, I mean, and watching some others, but it's pretty cool.
I love it.
You kind of see. It's like some people interview where they do all the homework and all the research, and then others it just kind of. What I wanted to see was like, because I love you and everybody that I've had on this so far, I love.
Yeah.
Like I'm friends with or just fans of. And so I wanted to see like how he did it when he had somebody that I know he probably doesn't really dig, or that he's not that interested in the subject matter or whatever. And that was interesting because he's good at it.
Yeah.
But he still doesn't do a ton of research. He just talks.
He says it all the time. He said, I'm a dumbass. But he asks questions.
Not that. That's what I mean. He's interested in
He's
people.
interested in everything. But what I like also is when he's got a guest on and they don't talk about what the guest does.
Right.
Or he might later on, but they just start jiving and you find out who the person is instead of going, hey, I'm promoting this, I'm promoting that.
Right.
Just talk about, and you find out about all these people who they really are. Like he's had a few musical guests on and it's kind of cool.
Well, let's find out who Frenchy is, everybody.
Oh,
Welcome
boy.
to Jackin Around. We did this before, but I took a little vacation and wanted to come back and revisit with Frenchy. Kevin Sciou. Sciou?
Sciou.
He's from France. I thought he always had the name Frenchy, but apparently he says that I started calling him Frenchy.
Now you remember, yeah.
I saw him playing with Wade Bowen at
It was
one of the
it was in
deal,
Austin.
the Lone Star.
Yeah, it was in Austin by the river. It was you, right?
No, it was. Well, I remember it being in spring
Mm,
at one of those Pivot shows before he
where was that at?
lost his ass. But I saw you playing. You had those beige colored bell bottoms on and some kind of funky shirt. And I just remember thinking, that dude, God damn, you make it hard.
Can we not do that? Oh, God.
I remember looking at the stage going, that dude's a rock star.
Yeah, had
And I
corduroys.
wasn't
Yeah,
talking
brown
about Wade at the
corduroys.
time.
Yeah.
Talking about
no.
you. I mean, Wade's a rock star too. I love Wade. And he's been on here, but I just remember seeing you going, there's an energy there that's pretty happening.
Was that a show in Austin? Because I remember
No,
a show
we
in
might
Austin.
have met in Austin.
Twice. Yeah, there
But
was two shows.
I remember it being one of those 2-stage festivals that I forget what it was called, but it was in some field by Spring, Texas, and it was Ziegenbach Fest.
That sounds about right.
Anyway,
Sounds familiar.
when was that? 2000
That was 2003 or 4.
would have been 3.
Yeah, because I played with Wade, on both years.
So what made you leave France? Like you were 20 years old. Did you know for a long time you were going to leave?
Mm-mm. Just kind of out of boredom.
Like as a kid, did you have did you have the American dream?
All I wanted to do was play. So by the time I was 14, I knew school was going to be out. That was it.
But did you finish school?
No.
You didn't finish high school?
No. Which
I found that in music, man, it's the funniest thing. Like
what you hear people
level
say,
of education means nothing in this world.
No.
It's like
it's
number
good.
of books read means a lot.
Yeah, or street smart. You don't learn that in
Like
school.
you're a brilliant guy.
And so I remember having some difficulties for a while because I wanted to do music. My parents always supportive, but we don't know how to help you with that. When you're in the south of France, teachers tell you, well, what if music don't work? You got to have a plan B. Parents listen to the teachers and say, what's going to be your plan B? And I said, I don't know. What I care about is playing guitar. And I was already playing shows by the time I was 13.
Wow.
There
By
was
yourself or with a band? Or
No,
what?
with bands, yeah, because there was like a little scene going on. It was mid-90s. They still had that blues revival going on after Stevie Ray. So French bands were doing a lot of trios and 4-piece bands, and there was a bunch of bars to play at.
Mm-hmm.
So I was 13 and 14 playing on the weekends and making money.
With guys that were,
Like older.
yeah.
Yeah, like couple of friends, my dad's friends, playing with them. And
Were they good?
yeah, good enough to do 3-chord, 12-bar stuff. And so I got good real quick because I was playing with all the guys and practicing all the time. I would get up extra early before going to school just to practice an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then by the time I hit high school, I was playing every weekend, and
Making money?
Making money. And I started skipping school, forging my mom's signature for doctor's notes, whatever,
Right.
And it worked out for a while. And then one day my dad gets a call at work. He said, "Can we talk to Mr. Sciou? Yeah, how's Kevin doing?" My dad was like, "Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, he's doing great, Yeah, because we haven't seen him in school for 3 weeks now." And so
Where would you go? It's like cliche?
Well, my parents have the same schedule every day. So I knew when they left and when they would come back. So I'd pretend to get on a bus, walk around for a little bit. All right, time to get back in the house. And they would come home for lunch, I believe around 11:45, go have lunch and come back at like 1:15, when I was back. And so by the time they got off work, I was supposed to be back from school. So basically I would just stay home and practice guitar all day.
Right.
One time a teacher called home to talk to my parents and Adam one that picked up and I was supposed to be in class. So long story short, my dad goes, "How was school today?" And I said, "Oh, it was great. Just nothing special." And he goes, "Cool." Because, they called at work and I just went, "Oh, busted." And he goes, "What have you been up to?" And I said, "Well, I've been
Scared the shit out of him.
Yeah, I've been practicing guitar, just staying home and practicing guitar." So my dad was like, "All right, that's cool." And I was like, "All right." And he goes, "But I got to tell your mom though." I was like, "No." Because my dad was cool. My mom was cool too, but she was more.
Yeah, she was a mom.
She was mom, And so I ended up working in a music store for a little bit. And then I had a period where.
So you left school in the 9th grade?
Is that ninth? I don't know. Is it 9th grade? Yeah. I did first year of high school and I had to do it again because my grades were terrible.
Right.
So the second year I thought, well, just, do it, that way but I couldn't even focus on any of that. So I went and worked in a music store. And then after a while, the band broke up.
The what? The band
broke up. Yeah. It was called Route 66. And everything fell apart.
That's so funny. I mean, what a cliche to have a band name of an American Highway and a French band.
That's right. Well, I got it tattooed.
I love it. I think it's great.
And so the band broke up. Nothing was going on. I ended up quitting my job thinking that I would have more opportunities. And then it was nothing. I would just stay home. And I got, depressed, fighting with my parents. So I thought, well, what are you going to do? Either find a job and then just forget music or hit the road. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to come to the States so bad. I grew up on everything American, television shows, records.
Oh, really? Television shows too?
Mm-hmm. Which I have a funny story about that from when I came to the States, because my favorite series when I was a kid was Dukes of Hazzard. Which was not called Dukes of Hazzard.
What is it called?
It was called Sheriff. Yeah.
It's called what?
It was called Sheriff, fais-moi peur. So anyway,
even that sounds romantic,
right? It's like, what? So I had this vision of everything American. The coolest things were American. The cars, the girls, the music, everything was birthed here. But how do you wrap your head around, hey, I'm just going to move to the States and then where? New York, LA, Dallas, Austin, Nashville. I just didn't know. So I thought, all right. And this is when Street Smart started. I thought, okay, so a lot of my favorite musicians are English. They come from London or around London, and they played American music. And I also knew that English bands are popular in America. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, this is the European Union. I don't need a visa to go to London. So if I can make it to Paris, then you can go across the channel and go to London. So I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to London. So I did. I forgot if I flew there, if I took a train. That's a little blurry. But made my way to London. And I figured if I can join an English band, maybe a successful one or, indie band type, then I can make it to the States with that English band.
And you're 17 now, 18?
No, I'm 19.
19.
And so I found out real quick that English people do not want French people in their band.
Why? Did y'all quit?
Because we surrendered. Don't make it past rehearsal or audition. No, it was fun and I enjoyed it, but the culture was very much English, which makes sense, right? It's England. So I had a vision of what London was because of Led Zeppelin and Jeff Beck and Clapton, Cream and all that. But first of all, that was the 60s and 70s and I was in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Right.
So it was already a different world. And I just didn't quite click, even though I had a great time over there. I didn't quite click with the London culture. I did see some cool shows. And one of the shows I saw when I was there
I wonder what that is, like the culture part where
they're very old.
They probably want to.
Very old countries. I mean,
Yeah, they don't want to
such
get
a long
further
history.
away from American blues. They want to get closer. So getting a French guitar player would take them in their brain further away.
They call us froggies over there. I think we talked about
They call you all that over here too.
No.
They don't call you that.
Not in front of me. Yeah, not to my face. See, I like that better. Behind my back, I don't care. I don't hear it.
When I'm not with you, hey, you talk to Froggy?
After all these years. No, so I was there. It was a great learning experience. It was the first time out of the house. And instead of moving to like the next town over, it was a different country and, one of the biggest cities in the world. So I learned real quick how to. So there was a few things that I learned while there.
Mm-hmm.
How to live with little means. So finding hostels, that was the best way to do it. Plus you meet people when you're there. And then, just trying to figure out who was doing what. And
did you ever run into any trouble?
No.
So hostels are pretty.
They're fine.
Yeah.
But I worked for the hostel because I didn't have money. So I was cleaning toilets and showers.
Really?
And I found out how dirty people are by doing that. It's like, is that what people do in their homes? But I had free lodging at the hostel for a while. And,
that's killer.
And then I ended up working in the kitchen, washing dishes. So I ended up having the key of the kitchen. So I would just go at night and go get food. And so it was like a little bit on the Charles Dickens.
Oh, yeah. You had the key to the kitchen, so you got to go check out the fridge.
At night, I would just grab, a couple of bananas and some bread and,
So how did you make any money? Like, how did you save up? Like, how much did it cost to fly over here?
Well, I had sold see, that's a little blurry at this point because I thought I had sold a guitar to come to the States, but I think I'd sold a guitar to go to England, and I had a little bit of money left. But I only stayed in England for 10 months.
Right.
Or maybe even less than that. So, but while I was there, I was trying to figure it out musically where I was going to go. But I was just a guitar player. So I just wanted to join a band.
Right.
That played rock and roll or blues rock or whatever. But I couldn't find that over there. It was all Britpop and all that.
Oh, yeah, so the blues scene wasn't happening by that.
I mean, there was a blues scene, but like you might find here maybe like blues jams and stuff like that,
right.
So anyway, they have the Time Out magazine, which is, your Austin Chronicle, whatever. And I will always look for concerts to go to. And then one day I saw a name that caught my attention. It's a band called North Mississippi All Stars.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And they were playing at the place called The Garage, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know that place. Because you went to England before, right? And toured there.
I did. We played the Borderline. Yeah.
That's right. Well, it was in the same neighborhood right there where all the Cubs are.
Yeah.
And so they're from the States. They're from, Memphis or, Mississippi Hill Country. So I got to go see them. But I didn't know who they were. And I get to the show and they started playing. And I was floored. Luther Dickinson was on fire that night. And he was playing that slide.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're good, man.
I remember just being slapped in the face really hard.
Who's their dad?
Jim Dickinson.
Jim Dickinson, that's right.
Produced, wrote, and they worked with Rolling Stones and all that. And I remember at the end of the show, I was so blown away. And I remember I stuck around, which is where I kind of, early on, I started doing that, instead of seeing the show and then going on
sticking around and coming out for a drink or whatever.
Exactly. So I'm at the bar upstairs when, general admission people are out, but I'm like, I'm just going to stick around. I'm just going to be in a corner. And Noel Gallagher from Oasis was there. So I see him, and he was there with the bass player and a guitar player.
That's when Oasis was huge.
Yeah, huge. And so I saw him, and I went and talked to him, and I said, how about that show? It's like, whatever, a few words, nothing. And so I ended up walking with him and the two guys in the band backstage. So I ended up backstage with Noel Gallagher and the guys from North Mississippi All Stars. And, I forgot, I was just kind of, in the background, but that experience changed me. And then I remember going.
Was that the first time you'd been backstage at a band?
Like a real deal. And so I remember going back to the hostel that night, and I looked at my guitar when I got back.
Did you talk to the dude, the Luther and them?
Yeah, and then when I came to the States, I ended up running into him one time, and I mentioned that show. He remembered the show, and we kind of had a little conversation about that, and had his number for a while. But I remember going back to the hostel, and I looked at my guitar. I had my Telecaster with me, and I remember looking at my guitar, and I told myself, if I'm going to do this seriously, after what I saw tonight, I better step up my game. And if it's any indication on how American musicians play the kind of music I want to play, then I need to go to the States.
Right, wow.
So that night, pretty much in my head, just made the wheel spin. It's just
right, it came together.
And it's one of those things, you can't stop thinking about it. You can't go back to like a day before that show. That show happened, then it changed you.
Those kinds of shows change you, man. You go like all of a sudden the next day you're yelling at your band members. Nothing's good enough. Everything sucks. I
was yelling at me. I thought I was good. After I saw that, I'm like, well, I still got some, some improving to do.
Feeling that way when I saw Todd.
Yeah.
First time I went on tour with him. When I saw the guys who were closer to my age doing it, going, oh shit.
Yeah.
If you're going to run a marathon, you got to run.
Yeah. And I didn't really see that in LA much when I moved, because that's where I moved from England. In LA, there was great players, but it was in the rock and roll style. So I felt at home. I saw that in Nashville. When I first went to Nashville, if you go to Station Inn in Nashville on any given night and you get those bluegrass players or whatever, you're just like, okay, that's a different level.
Yeah.
But so I ended up making.
So you got a ticket to LA for $1,000 or
no, it was like $500 back then. Good old days of
you didn't
cheap
fly
flights.
business class?
Didn't know those existed.
And you landed at LAX?
Landed at LAX on May 1st, 2001. Yeah. And so I took a little bit of experience from London and applied it to LA, which was find a hostel. And then take it from there. Look at the paper and start answering ads.
Stabilize your position. Get HQ.
Yeah.
Figure out how to then start maneuvering.
And LA or a lot of American cities, LA is one street.
Did you know what part of town to go find a hostel, or were you just
Hollywood?
You knew that.
Yeah. So I think I told you before about this banana bungalow, and it was.
By bungalow, he means bungalow.
Did I say bungalow? Well, I didn't have any bungalow there, but I'm sure it happens. Yeah. No, and Studio City, I think. And I stayed there for just a couple of days, and then I was like, well, I don't have a car. I can't be walking on the side of the highway to get into Hollywood.
LA's hard to get around.
Oh, it's super hard. So I found this hostel a couple of days later that was on top of a liquor store that's right across the street from the Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah.
It's like a liquor store and a pizza place.
Hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there. And it was like a little stairs in between liquor store and the pizza place. And it was like $8 a day. It's perfect.
I can picture it.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like you go, oh.
It was amazing. You walk down the stairs, you see the stars, and it's like, this is it. I made it.
See Batman or.
Yeah. Spider-Man. This is great. It's like a movie.
Elvis.
Yeah. It was brilliant. It was funky. And you know how it is. You go to a new place and just the excitement of just being in a place that's new.
Well, also, I've stayed at that hotel too. It's like, that's a really cool hotel. It's got a cool little bar. Yeah. Cool dudes stay,
Yeah, you can walk in and
it'd be the kind of place where you see Noel Gallagher. Hey, remember me?
Yeah, and LA is that kind of place. I discovered real quick. You're gonna end up seeing people that you recognize. Oh, is that so and so? And so I ended up there. And I had not a work visa, I had a tourist visa, like a visa waiver for like 90 days. So I had a round trip. I had a one way in, one way out, And so I was like, all right, you got 90 days. You can just got a little bit of money, a couple $100, backpack, guitar. So I was backpacking just like I did in England.
Right.
So, all right, well, if you're going to try to see what's going on, just pick up the paper. So they have Music Connection magazine. And I will look at ads for guitar players wanted. And if I see like bands and names I recognize, like Black Rose, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Guns N' Roses, Rolling Stones.
You mean that's what they're playing? Like,
Yeah, influenced by so and so. So I just started picking up the phone, and one of the first bands I called was a guy named Joe Firstman.
First Man?
Yeah. So his band was called First Man. And so I called him up and I said, hey, I'm from France. And, so all right, come out to the audition. And it was on Hollywood and Vine, where Capitol Records is. And there's right at the corner of Hollywood and Vine is this block of, it's a rehearsal space center. And they have like 100 rooms.
That's like right by Jack's Sugar Shack.
I don't know.
Played. Yeah,
Okay.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Where all the stars are.
Yeah, and so I met up with him for the audition, and it was like 20 guitar players that showed up. And he was doing a week-long audition. Okay, so-and-so come back the next day. So-and-so come back the next day, which was a little much.
Whittling it down for a bar band?
Yeah. So from 20 guitar players, and it happened in the course of, I think, like 4 days, whatever, with a show at the end of the week. And it came down to 2 guitar players. Me, and another guy that you might know of named Slim. Slim ended up playing guitar for Lady Antebellum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was in LA. So it came down to me and Slim.
Dude with the braids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was awesome, by the way. I was thinking about him today on the way here. I was thinking about all that stuff, and I haven't talked to him in a while, but...
What's up, Slim?
Yeah, Slim, what's up? So...
He's Lady A now.
Right, Lady A. And so we go and play the show, and Slim and I on the stage. I forgot where we played, but and then we all go back to the rehearsal space because they had a party going on. So we're drinking, there's girls, we're jamming, and I'm playing and getting boozed up, and I'm playing whipping post on my brothers.
Right.
Just jamming, and whatever. And then I just stop playing for a while, and this guy comes up to me and he goes, hey, I'm Lex. I said, cool. And he goes, what's your deal? So, just playing guitar. I'm from France, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, cool. And he goes, well, I play in the best rock and roll band in LA, and we're going to be as big as Guns N' Roses.
I love LA.
I was like, oh, you are?
It's like right out of a movie.
Right.
You wouldn't believe somebody would say that.
Oh, it was, he was straight up like, we're going to be big. We're going to be as big as Guns N' Roses. So I'm like, oh, you got my attention. What's going on? What? And I got the gig with First Man that night. Mm-hmm. So I was going to play with him. He had like manager.
Did he take you and Slim?
No, I got the gig.
Oh, you got the gig. Slim pickings.
Yes. Slim did get the gig. And I'm talking, it's like 2 a.m, right on a Saturday night. And so Lex goes, hey man, have you heard of Waylon Jennings? And I go, no.
You'd never heard of Waylon Jennings at that point?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
It was all rock and roll and blues at home.
Good.
Johnny Cash was the only name that, if you're not into country
Resonates.
music, that you would recognize. I go, no. He goes, all right. And he goes, well, have you heard of Dukes of Hazzard? See where this is going?
That's your favorite TV show.
Favorite TV show. And I go, no. He's like, hold on a second. You haven't... He goes, just a good old boy. I go, oh yeah, Chérie, fais-moi peur, So, I didn't know the name of it. I said, how cool is good? Well, I played with his son, Shooter, it's a band called Stargun. I was like, oh, no kidding. So I was drawn towards what he had to say.
Of course.
So he called Shooter up. Shooter was out and about. And what I didn't know is that the guitar player had given his notice and was about to move back to Nashville.
Oh,
he was
wow.
still in the band. They hadn't looked for a guitar player yet.
Mm-hmm.
So Lex, who's a businessman, knew not, I didn't know what was going
Was Lex
on.
the manager or something?
No, but he was always, he always had an eye on the business side of things. So he wasn't going to let me go. I didn't know that. So Shooter shows up, we meet, we go to their rehearsal space. Yeah, oh yeah. So at 2, 3 a.m, here we are in Shooter's studio, a rehearsal space / recording studio. And we got to playing. He picked up a bass and Lex was on drums, and Lex was like, come on, shred,
Right.
So I'm just...
Come on, make me look good.
Right. And so I'm playing and, doing the whole thing, and they're like, so where are you staying? I said, well, at a hostel down the street. And they go, no, you're not. I go, okay, well, because you're coming with us. You're going to play in Stargun. So 3, 4 in the morning at that point, I don't know. We go by the hostel. I go pick up my bag, and I move into the band house that night.
No shit.
And started everything. Oh, the next day I had to tell First Man, like,
I was about to say, when did you break it till?
I think it was the next day or 2 days later. I think I went to lunch with him, and I was like, man, and actually First Man got mad at Shooter. He mentioned it because he ended up being he had like a house band for a talk show. I was trying to remember the name.
First Man did?
Yeah, for a late night show. Daly, what was his name?
Carson Daly.
Is that Carson Daly?
Mm-hmm. That show you had at like after Conan O'Brien?
Yes. So
Yeah.
he ended up being the house band for that guy, but he was mad at Shooter for a while because they were friends afterwards. But you stole my guitar player, and it's like, I had a say in it. That was a better offer anyway.
Right. You can't steal people.
So I woke up in the band house the next day, and that started the whole 20 years.
Wow,
being
man.
here.
That just shows, like, people would call that lucky or blessed or whatever, but it's also that kind of shit started years ago when you first said, I'm going that way.
Yeah,
And you just kind of rely on the universe to
pretty much
provide stuff for you. And it's like, it's funny how if you know where you're going, even if it's 1,000,000 miles away, you'll get there.
Well, and there was a sense of urgency also because, I knew some people in my hometown that never left.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of my dad's who's a bass player, he had told me when I left for England, he said, if I was your age, I'd go with you. He never left. So
That's funny, man. The first part of your career is just like a cliche of a movie of a band that's just starting.
Mm-hmm.
With the line, we're going to be bigger than
What
Guns
if
N' Roses.
What if I left a month later?
Go spread your wings.
Yes. What if I left a month later? I wouldn't have played with Shooter. And
yeah, who knows?
Who knows? But everything fell into place because I remember we talked about this. I said, hey, look, this is the deal. I need to get paperwork. I'm only here for a few months. I need to get a work visa. Yeah. I need to get a work visa. I cannot work. Not that I wanted to work, but I said I cannot work, so I need a place to stay. So basically, Shooter kind of took care of me, don't worry about the rent, and I called my dad. We'll figure it out, the paperwork. So when he told his dad, Waylon, and his mom, Jessie.
And so in your mind, you're sitting there talking to Shooter, who's the son of the narrator of your favorite TV show from as you're a kid.
Yeah.
And now he's going to call that guy, and that guy's going to help you figure out. I bet you were freaking. I bet you were like,
it was exciting.
What's going on?
Everything was 1,000,000 miles an hour. And so when he told his parents, they said, well, that's great. Well, how about you guys come for a weekend and we get to meet him. And so we went over to their house in Chandler, Arizona. We drove there and spent the weekend at Waylon's house. And that was in early July of 2001. So it was a couple of months after, staying in a hostel.
You get to meet Jessie Coulter too.
Yeah.
Were you aware of her at all?
No, but real quick. Shooter is like, hey, here's the albums. Check it out. And I fell in love with Waylon's music and Jessie's music right away too. So we go there and we spend the weekend. And on Saturday night, we went out and, Waylon and Jessie stayed home. And I got drunk. We all got drunk.
Imagine that.
Right? So it was full house. It was band members, family members. So I ended up sleeping on the couch.
Stargun?
Yeah.
So y'all all went down as a band.
Mm-hmm. And so I slept on the couch. And that's where Jessie had a piano. Mm-hmm. And Waylon had that J200 guitar sitting on the stand. And it's Sunday morning. I smell food. Like bacon and all that stuff, Jessie's cooking, right? I smell food, and then I hear music. My head is pounding. I'm like, I'm hungover. So I'm in the covers. I'm like trying to, look at what's going on. Thought they were playing the, stereo. And I look up, and it's Waylon and Jessie sitting at the piano singing.
Wow.
And everybody else is in the rooms and stuff. I'm on the couch, and my feet are dangling out. I'm looking, I'm like, well, this is crazy. you know, and I saw the magic. I understood what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I met Waylon, I knew he was not a regular human. You know, he had
He's
an
got a
aura.
name on his shirt. You're no regular dude.
Right, exactly.
work.
But I saw that, you know, and it was cool. You know, they loved me. They adopted me pretty much. They said, you know, you're part of the family.
See, what were they singing? You remember?
I think they sang like Storms Never Last, and I don't know what else. I think they only sang a couple of songs.
But you woke up to two of the most iconic figures.
Yeah.
In
And by the
this
time we were
genre.
there, I knew what was up because, you know, I studied real quick.
Right.
So, and a few things that were kind of crazy. He had like, you know, like you have here, you know, like, you know, things from the past and stuff. And he had like a letter from John Lennon saying how much he loved Waylon. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy.
That's unbelievable, man.
And I remember he had this motorcycle on a podium in the house. It's like an Ariel motorcycle from the 50s.
A real motorcycle?
Mm-hmm.
On what?
On a podium, like, you know, on a stand. And so I was looking at it and I was curious and I asked Waylon. So that's me asking him, not Jesse or Shooter or whatever. I asked Waylon, I said, whose motorcycle is this? And he goes, oh, that's Buddy's. And I go, Buddy who? He goes, looks at me, you know, French guy. He goes, Holly, Buddy Holly. I just kind of, you know.
Because you didn't know any of his history. You just knew the records he made.
Well, I knew he had played for Buddy.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I knew that. And so I took a picture on it, you know, because it's just like you're at home, like make yourself at home. So I still have the pictures of me on Buddy Holly's motorcycle, and I'm thinking this is rock and roll history.
Yeah,
because country music is also rock and roll history. They're
That's
both
right.
related. And so after that, you know, wrote me a letter for immigration and got work visas and whatnot.
Right.
And played with Shooter for a couple of years, and I remember. So I had my Telecaster, right. And Shooter's like, well, we got to have the Guns N' Roses sound. And I said, I love that. And he goes, you know, like a Les Paul. I'm thinking, well, that's a couple of grand.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, I'm not going to sell my Telly to buy a Les Paul. I don't know what to do. And he goes, I'll call my dad. So.
You had a Les Paul laying around the house?
No, so when being left-handed, you know. So,
Yeah.
So Waylon ended up calling Gibson and said, I need a left-handed Gibson Les Paul shipped to that address. And so one morning I wake up and Shooter goes, dude, come to the living room. I said, what? And it was a Gibson case, and I opened it up and it was from Waylon. And he had bought me, or I don't know if he paid for it, but it's Waylon, right? But he had gotten me a Gibson Les Paul. And that's all within the first.
I don't get jealous very often, man. But that's
Well, it's wild, right? It's, but I knew I was lucky. I knew I had a, you know, not hit the jackpot because that sounds, you know, a little weird, but I knew I was.
well. The only thing that didn't
Introduced,
come true, the only
you
thing that didn't come true was Stargun wasn't bigger than Guns N' Roses.
Right.
What happened there, man? Was it like, did you dig the music?
Yeah, because I got to write with Shooter.
Mhm.
You know, I wasn't writing lyrics, but I was writing guitar riffs. And
Why didn't that work? Just cause? Same reason other things don't work?
I think there's a few reasons for that. Because I remember it took me a while to, because that was my world for 2 years, Stargun. And
Yeah.
then it broke up. And then I'm like, what am I going to do? So it took me a while to get around, you know, the concept of it. But I think really at the end of the day, that was Shooter's high school band. You know, he started it at the end of high school and then moved to LA. But then he got better, and then he got, you know, to find himself. And so that's when he went solo.
Right.
And so it was time to put that aside. But we remained friends and everything. That's when I moved to Texas to go play with Wade.
Right. How'd you know you were going to play with Wade? Like, how'd you connect with him?
Well, that happened kind of, it was like circumstantial. So Lex and Carter Falco, guitar player, they're both from Waco. So they grew up with Wade. So Lex was helping Wade to mix that live at Blue Light.
Falco, the drummer?
Carter Falco was a guitar player and Lex Lipsitz was the drummer. And so Lex was helping Wade producing that Live at Blue Light album. And so I shouldn't probably be saying that, but that's all right. So when they got the recordings back, the band wasn't that great. So Wade is like, well, we need maybe to add a couple more guitars on that live album. So I added some guitars on that album.
Right.
And so then...
While you were in LA?
Yeah. So then when Stargun broke up and Wade, got wind of that, he told Lex, well, maybe we can, you know, see if, you know, Kevin, not Frenchy yet, wants to come down to Texas and maybe play some shows with us to kind of, you know, help the band a little bit. So I did, because I had nothing in LA.
Right.
Man, I didn't want to stay there anymore too, because I had toured with Stargun, we'd gone to Texas and back, and I saw the rest of America.
Right.
I mean, LA is very American, but it's also LA. It's easy to just stay there and never get out of it.
Right.
So I kind of, being from South France, small town, I was just kind of feel like more like a regular guy, like the whole like fancy parties and stuff. I went to those because, Shooter will go and somebody else will go, and it was fun, but I was just like, I don't want to do that. I want to just play,
Right.
So, and, in LA, you don't play that often,
Yeah, it's more.
They promote one show and they go.
Style over substance.
Yeah, and I love the road. That's what I wanted to do, is be on the road. So I came down here and played with Wade, and that's when we met.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of, did a couple of different things. Because I had work visas, right? So I had to renew them every so often. So
How long did they last?
at first, it was year to year, and it's a 6 months process. So I was literally continuously working on, and you have to be employed. And you have to show proof of doing something that's special. So when I was playing with Wade, we were playing bars, and he wasn't,
Right, he wasn't.
that now.
His
So
career just started.
I was thinking, I was like, well, I'm going to show that to immigration. Played in San Angelo in some bar. They're going to be like,
We played Blaine's Pub. What's
right,
not to
what?
love?
I loved it. I thought it was special, but to immigration, and you show, little money that you're making, I was thinking, all right, okay, I'm having fun, but also you got to be careful because you can get kicked out.
Right.
So I contacted some people in LA and ended up playing for a band called Rock and Roll Soldiers that
Right.
was signed on Atlantic Records. And with Atlantic Records, I ended up getting a 3-year visa. But the way things happened, I only played with them for a year because the band got dropped.
Wow.
Like a lot of bands do. So when the band broke up, I was back in LA, kind of square one, and I thought, what am I going to do? So that's when I came back to Texas. But I had 2 years left of my visa. So
you'd already gone and played some gigs with Wade.
then
you
back
came
to LA.
back. Then that band broke up and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So did you call Wade back up?
No. I stayed in LA for a little while, and then things kind of went south. Meaning I had no gig.
Meaning your girlfriend broke up with you?
No, that was the whole, you remember the girl from Phoenix story?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that happened then.
Yeah. So I was freaking out because I wasn't making any money. I had a child on the way. And I was like, what am I going to do?
You thought you had a child.
I thought I had a child, right. So now we don't need to get into that too much in details, but I was shit is getting serious, and I can't be playing in bands just to play in bands. I need to, if I want to do it, I'm going to have to be in a real professional
In a band.
The real deal. But how do you go about it? And I was broke. And so what happens sometimes when you're broke is you tend to party more than usual.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in Venice Beach hanging out with some characters. I mean, I wasn't getting in trouble, but maybe I was doing it a little much.
Right.
Of everything. And then one day I freaked out and I called my parents. I said, I'm coming home. I'm freaking out. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm not going to be able to take care of that kid. I'm broke. I'm, hurting myself
My
a little
luck's
bit.
run out.
Yeah. And so my parents had the best advice. They said, well, you can come back, but if you come back, your visa is going to run out. And then that's it. They go, you remember when you played in Texas? And I said, yeah. They go, do you remember hanging out with Ragweed and Stoney or meeting you and everybody? I said, yeah. They go, well, why don't you call people up again? And they go, maybe you can go back to Austin. And even if you don't play for one of those guys, you can at least find maybe a cover band and, play on the weekends and get a small place and then figure it out. And then if you still want to come home, then of course we miss you, your only child. And I thought, because I couldn't think of it on the spot because I was in it so deep that I needed
you were freaking out.
That advice from, I was like, I didn't think of that. I was like, that's a good, and
Hello? Yeah, it's Frenchy. French fry. Forever, forget me not, freedom, Fresca. Fuck you, Froggy. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, no. Oh, yeah, that's right. You know him as Froggy.
That's great. Oh my God.
Sorry about that.
But no, that's
So
fine.
anyway,
No, so I finally had a little hope.
where'd you live when you got to Austin?
So hold on, I got just to put things. Hear me out now. Hear me out. What's up, Drew? And so no, when I was in LA that summer, so it's 2006, without the band and everything, I came to see you play at Whiskey A Go Go.
Oh,
Yeah. And I talked to John Mike, I think, yeah. And so I came to see you, and Taylor Swift was opening up for you acoustic that night. It was like a radio show.
yeah.
by
I
radio.
remember like it was yesterday.
So
They had hay bales.
yes.
On the
I remember that. I was
floor.
like, well, that's odd in LA, right off the Sunset Strip. And so I remember, I don't know if I talked to you, but I talked to Peter a little bit, and then John Mike, I knew him pretty well. And so that stayed with me. I think it was like August of 2006, and that stayed with me. So I went through like basically early 2007, and I was like, that was a killer show, And so the first person that I contacted was Django Walker.
You picked the wrong fucking band. You should have gotten in Taylor Swift's band.
No, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
I'm kidding, but it's funny.
The hair, I don't know. This is just.
She rocks, man. She's
great.
She killed it. Yeah.
She's great, but yeah.
It's funny when you say she opened for me because
Yeah.
I tell my kids that. They're like, no way.
And she was like, what, 16 then?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like 16, 17. So anyway, so by February of 2007, that's when I had my freak out and everything. So I called Django Walker. I called Django and I see what he was up to, And, I'm, about to play some shows and do this and that. Why don't you come to Austin?
You knew Django
from Wade and all that,
yeah.
a couple years back. So I was like, that was my way back into Austin. So I go stay with Django. He had his own place. And
was that in the back of Jerry Jeff's house?
no, but I did stay there too. I had the opportunity to spend a couple of afternoons with Jerry Jeff.
That's great.
I think one time, I think he was a little bored because he wouldn't let me go. I was in his music room, and showing me guitars and stuff. Yeah, he was great. And so the whole plan was to start a band with Django, or to start with him. And I think time-wise, what was going on, Masterson was going with Sunvolt, and you guys were looking for a guitar player.
In 2007?
Yeah, early 2007. And my name came up. Now, I didn't know that was going on. So Drew contacted Casey Twist, and Twist got a hold of me right before I left LA, telling me that, there was a chance for an audition with you.
Right.
But it was my last weekend, so that night I got tore up. So I didn't even remember talking to Casey anyway. So I came to Austin not remembering that it was a chance auditioning for you. And so we got a hold, I don't know how we got a hold of each other, but I do remember you called me.
Yeah.
You go, hey man, this is Jack. I'm like, Jack, it's like, Jack who? I mean, I think because I didn't know, because I forgot that, that you were going to contact me. And
so when I saw you playing with Wade, that was during the couple gigs that you played with him. You weren't like with him a long time.
I played with him like for almost a year.
Then you went back to LA?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
So that was like 2003,
during that time,
2004,
that's when I saw
2004,
you.
2005. Yes. So I've been a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember Django was going to play some basketball or something, and I was just sitting in the house, I had the audition, that's right. So I went to the audition, and I thought, what? It's like, well, all right. I said, Jack is the real deal. I knew that you had the label and everything, the number one. I was thinking, well, I'm pretty rough on the edges. Got the one Vox amp, the one, SG or whatever I had at the time.
It was at SG.
Yeah, and I was back, like the first day, backpack and guitar, an amp.
Right.
That's an upgrade. And crashing on the couch, So it's like, well. And then I listened to the album, This Is It. And I loved every song, but I was thinking, man, like, you could hear the production and the sounds, a lot of layers. And I wasn't going to bullshit you. So I remember I showed up the audition and I thought, well, it's Austin. It's going to be like 20 guitar players. And I show up and there's nobody. It's just me.
All right.
So I was like, well, this is kind of weird. I wonder if Jack is an asshole. Nobody wants to work for him. So I show up and Drew and Pete, Pete, hey, buddy, just cool and hanging. And so you showed up and we played a couple of songs from the album. And then I think we did, was it Dim Lights?
It was Dim Lights.
Okay, we did Dim Lights. And then you had to go pick up the kids, right? So I wanted to say something to you before you left. And this is what came out of my mouth. I said, hey, Jack, Jack, what's up? And I go, I would love to play for you. If you have me in your band, I'll be professional, no drama.
So you started off lying to me.
Right. It was all bullshit. No, but I remember telling you this, but I did tell you, I said, but if you're looking for a guitar player that's going to sound like the album, then you're better off either hiring the guys from the album or a Nashville guy, because I'm not going to be your guy. So you go, all right, cool. And then built it out. I was like, oh shit, what the hell is wrong with me? Like, just be like, oh yeah, whatever. You need that sound,
Yeah.
But I was such a raw guitar player that I didn't want to lie to you and then being over my head with the gig.
Right.
So I said, all right, well, I just lost that gig. That's great. And then Drew goes, a little while after that, I was still at the rehearsal space there. And he goes, so what you doing? I said, well, I don't know. I'm just hanging out with Jingles. I got no plans. He goes, well, want to get on the bus and go on the road? I was like, yeah.
Cha-ching.
So Joe, Mike, and Pete in the rental car went by Django's, and Django was at the house, and he goes, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm going on the road with Jack. He goes, oh, because I didn't really tell him what was going on.
Right.
And so if I remember correctly, you had a 2-week run through like Colorado and stuff, and then we end up in Nashville, and Masterson was finishing up the run.
Right.
But you had an audition in Nashville, a second audition. And that was, I think the label had put that audition together for you.
Right.
So I was on the road, and I remember I was practicing the songs during the day. I would watch the show at night to see what Masterson was doing. And then you would get me up on stage for Barbie Doll, Love You. And I was having a blast, but it was getting along, and I was getting the understanding of everything worked. And I was all excited. And then we get to Nashville 10 days later, and it dawned on me. I'm like, oh shit, that's the Nashville audition. He's gonna pick a guy from Nashville. I'm gonna be in Nashville.
No way to get home.
Be a Hazy or Graham bus ticket back to Austin, and then back to square one. And so Drew got on the bus that day, and he goes, all right, guys, I got an announcement to make. And you were doing whatever you do, press, meetings and stuff. You were doing, you were running all over the place. And I was pretty nervous that day. And he goes, all right, got a big announcement to make. Auditions are canceled, and it's going to be a rehearsal. And he turns around to me and goes, welcome to the van. And everybody hugged me.
I was like to say, man, I don't remember having that rehearsal. I would have not wanted that.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys in Nashville, they can play, and they can do all those layers and all that shit. But I was like, that's why we played Dim Lights. That's kind of every time I've had a rehearsal, we'll do whatever the hits are or whatever the songs are, and then piano player Billy Nobel.
Yeah.
It's like let's play something real simple that they don't know.
Well, you had Jay Jackson that played pedal steel. He showed up at the rehearsal, and he was in the band. But I remember.
Oh, so that's maybe what that rehearsal was about.
Yeah.
Because we were going on the road with Brad Paisley, and Bushette had told me that
you had to have a pedal steel player.
To country it up. I remember that conversation.
Really? Yeah. Right.
I was like, well, I've always loved pedal steel players, but
yeah, and Jay showed up. But I remember, so we went for the Brad Paisley tour.
Mm-hmm.
You sure about? No, I think we came back because I think the first show that I played was the Houston Rodeo because Rascal Flatts had to cancel.
Oh, wow.
I think, and then and then we went on to do the Brad Paisley tour.
Yeah.
But we had a show in New Braunfels at River Road Ice House, and I think it was one of the first shows. And I was still, I had the gig, but I was thinking, well, now it's your time to do your thing, And we had the talkback mic and earbuds, and you went onto the mic, and Jay was not like on Keep On Keeping On. Like he was playing some parts, but he was not getting into it.
I kept looking over at his bare feet.
Yeah, I knew that you didn't like that.
And he had that volume pedal. I'd see him when it was his time to shine, he'd pull it off.
Yeah.
And like go pull it down. I was like,
what are you doing?
No, that's not how you do it. We turn it up.
Well, you told him in a talkback mic, middle of Keep On Keeping On, hey, this ain't Nashville, mother. This is Texas. You better step it up. And you were you were not mad, but you were like, you got into it. Like, hey,
well,
man,
if you're a pedal steel player in Texas, like.
Yeah, and it was a big crowd,
Yeah.
And so I'm hearing this whole conversation between you and Jay, and I'm like, oh shit, my butt cheeks got a little tight, and it's my turn for the solo. So I did extra for the keep on keeping on. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to get that, talking on stage.
That's funny.
And then, and it was like a rebirth for me because I felt that everything that had happened before I started playing with you, including the hard times, in itself was like a lifetime, if not 2 or 3, condensed in a few years. But it was like, all right, I'm here to stay. This is going to happen, and this is the next level. And never been on tour bus before. It was great.
Yeah.
But and playing with Brad Paisley and then all the people we met, because people liked me on the road. I was always cool with everybody.
Yeah, man. I mean,
it was a cool community of people.
You get up and sit in with guys we were playing with and play their right-handed guitars upside down.
With Dirks.
Yeah. I remember thinking, that guy's got some balls, man.
Yeah.
It's just so cool. That's what I mean. Like, your whole life is...
Because the only way it worked from the time I left home was to just do it, just
that's the way
be there.
That's the way it works for anybody.
Yeah, and still to today. So I just kind of applied it every time, and every time it worked, and it was highs and lows, but it cannot be highs all the time. So I was ready for the lows, and then you go back to the highs, and then a second time lows. I've done this before. It's uncomfortable, but you pull through, and then you and then you learn and you live anyway, right? You live it.
Yeah, I think the only way to make it in this, probably in any world, is to throw yourself into situations where you can fail miserably.
Yeah,
because your instincts kick in.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, all I wanted to do was play guitar.
Yeah,
but so that was 2007 when we started playing together, and then I saw you writing. Then I was paying attention to what you talked about. You was talking about Guy Clark, and I knew to an extent. But I enjoyed watching you on the road, pick up a guitar on a bus whenever you had time, because they always had you running around, of course. Right. But, you always take time to do something. And then the other bands, And then I ended up moving to Nashville pretty much right away. And then I saw a lot of cool cats in Nashville, too.
When did you start writing songs?
So I started, I think it was like 2009.
You'd never written a song before that?
Well, I always...
Instrumental stuff?
Yeah. Like I always had like... melodies and chord progressions with my picking stuff in it, and but it's only because of you and other people that I respected. Mostly you, yeah, of course. But I discovered through what through your your musical knowledge.
Right.
Then I will go and dig myself, and then so then once don't forget also that there was the language barrier.
Yeah, man. You're still dreaming in French at that point.
Sure, right? It's just one of those things. So even like translating sometimes certain things, So I think by the time I actually just started thinking in English and just doing all that and just not thinking about the language, that I was able to appreciate lyrics.
Yeah.
Because I grew up listening to English spoken music, but I never paid attention to lyrics.
Right.
Only melodies and hooks. So I got that. So when I finally, read some of the lyrics, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting, Beatles stuff, and but so I think I fell in love with that songwriter stuff.
Is that when you started hanging out at the Station Inn and seeing those guys and caliber of music and songs? Mm-hmm. That's a steep cliff.
Yeah, and but it was always in the background for me. Like I never went too crazy over it, meaning that I knew my place, so I would just pay attention. That's why I like JJKL and Tony Joe White and stuff like that. It's like bluesy. I always like as long as it's bluesy, I can relate to it. As long as it's simple. Like I love Dylan, but if I sat down, I couldn't write
that kind of
That kind of I'm not that kind of person. But JJKL, it's blues. It's got that
Oh yeah.
repetitive, like the blues guys. You repeat a line and then you go for the thing. And so naturally, I just started writing songs that were very much just like I had one called "Mama Sweet Mama," and it's just basically based on the blues thing. And I never really stopped. But I was thinking about it, recently, even today on the drive up here from Abilene.
From LA to Abilene.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it in a sense that a lot of people, you decide who you are. You become what you are. Like, what you do every day defines, over time what you are.
That's right.
And so I still think about it like, people ask you, what kind of music do you play? I don't play blues.
Right.
No, I don't play rock and roll, but I don't play country either, you know? And so, but then people say, well, I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm thinking, and I cannot quite say it.
Yet?
It's like, I guess so. What does it take? I don't know. When is it going to be comfortable to say it? Because the way I see it is I write songs and I believe you got to go sing your songs, but I'm not a singer per se. You know, I'm not.
Well, I find myself saying that all the time too.
Like
I'm
a
not really a
songster.
singer. I'm not really a singer.
Right.
But every time I say that, it's not true. I am a singer.
You are a singer, yeah.
And so are you.
So I am.
Like
So
you're a
I am.
singer-songwriter and a guitar player.
But I always kind of, maybe that's
Or
just me
whichever's
being-
first.
Maybe being a butthead. Because guitar was first, I like to say that I'm a guitar player by trade. And then I grew into writing songs. But I don't write songs because it's a cool thing to do. Because I'll write 4 or 5 songs in a row because I get this like thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. You play guitar for a living.
Yeah.
I mean, I pay you to play
So-
in my band.
Oh, you pay me? I thought I was doing it
I've
for
been paying
exposure.
the girl.
That's what Kevin says all the time.
Yeah, it's kicking in soon.
Yeah, no. So
But
it's
I understand what you're saying. On a pragmatic level, you get paid to play guitar for a living, but you put out 2 records.
right.
You're making another one
Yeah.
under Frenchie's Blues Destroyers.
Yeah, well, the new one's going to be, it's going to be called Me and My Guitar.
There you go.
Just acoustic. It's going to be 7, 8 songs. And I'm actually inspired by the Marfa tapes because you guys recorded some of the songs kind of like on your phone and everything.
Yeah.
I went in the studio in Fort Worth recently, right before I left town. And I had this idea of it, like, you know, like back in the 70s, they always had like chorus pedals on their guitars, even acoustic. So I didn't mind it. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
So I
that's
put,
killer.
well, it did in the studio, I thought. And then I listened back to it and it's just like, you know, I don't think this is right. And what I did, and it's probably the wrong way to do it, I recorded the guitar parts and then I stood in front of the mic and sang over my guitar track.
Oh,
So when
right.
I listen to it, it's not quite right.
Yeah.
So I kind of got inspired by the whole, like, why don't you record on your
Yeah,
phone?
if you're going to do it just by yourself, I would rather hear you play
With mistakes and
a
all.
performance.
That's right. If it's not flowing exactly right, or you know, you hear like ding, it's fine. So I did it on my phone the other day, and it was a whole different world. I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
It's like I got a little garage band style.
The song gets a
It's got-
breath inside of it.
It's got life to it. So I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna take my time. I might like tonight after the show at the hotel room, just maybe try. So I've been recording the same songs, so kind of like over and over, not to get a better take, but just to see if it sounds different, or maybe
Yeah,
on
man.
the road be different. And just put it out. I mean, there's so many people putting music out that, you know, I just want to.
So that's what I meant. So if you were wondering when you could call yourself a singer-songwriter, you can.
All
that's
right.
That's what singer-songwriters do. They fuck with their songs and
Yeah.
play them by themselves and then play them in front of somebody and go, oh, I need to change that. It didn't go over. Like that's the trade.
All right. Well, I'll take it.
Well,
That's it.
It's really cool to watch
The-
the evolution of your songwriting and your singing, especially because
right. Yeah.
a
The
little bit
singing.
like the guys from London.
Mm.
It's hard to, when you used to hearing Guy Clark, it's hard to hear a French guy
Singing.
sing this. Well, it's not hard to hear anybody that's great. It's just
It's not.
you were young, you hadn't sung really.
No, and
everything
I
else
didn't
you
think
was
about it.
so-
When I started, we didn't think about it because, well, I got spoiled. They had Robert Kearns going like, "Wah," you know, on stage. And then Billy was singing really good. And then when Robert left, we had Casey
He can
coming
sing.
in. He can sing. So it was one of those deals where they're doing it, so I'll just be the rock and roller over there. And then I remember Casey left and then John Mack came back and we didn't have Billy. And I remember we had like a couple of weeks break. So whenever that was, 2010 or 11.
Everything was.
And I remember the next show, we had a break for 2 or 3 weeks. And I remember the next show was at Billy Bob's. And one day I woke up like a week before the show and I had a freak out because I'm like, hold on a second. It's Pete, John Mike, you and I.
Mm-hmm.
So 4-piece. Nobody sings. It's like, this is going to be weird. This is not going to be that great. So then I was like, well, shit, I got to do it. So I remember I sat down with the recordings. I knew the songs, so that was easy. I just had to practice. So I practiced. I didn't really pay attention. And then that show started singing. And I think I remember like you went like, Oh, okay.
Well, it's a trip, man, because learning how to sing harmony vocals can be really daunting because it's such a
But that's when the Beatles come in
hard thing
handy
to
for
yeah,
me.
but
Yeah, because I grew up
you
on
learn
like,
it
on
really
that stuff.
quickly.
Yeah, it was kind of almost second nature to do harmonies, and so. But then, so that was like 10 years ago, and then since then I started playing shows, started writing, did a couple of recordings, and then naturally just kind of became better. And I enjoy it. I enjoy singing.
Well, you're good at it.
Yeah, it's fun. And now the thing that's hard, I don't know if you have that. Sometimes I have a issue remembering my own lyrics. Like, I don't know what it is. Some songs I write them and then I remember them. Some like I just gotta, I don't know if there's like a trick to get there.
The trick for me is having a good tour manager sing out the first line. Every time I forget the words, if I can get the first word of the first verse or whatever I'm missing, just one little trigger, it comes up completely.
Well, it's a different muscle memory too, because I think when you play guitar and just guitar for so long, that's one muscle. And singing words is a different one. And then also, I know on stage I do it often. I just think about random stuff.
Yeah.
You see something in the crowd, or you think
that's when I forget shit too.
And then that's when you're like, oh, you got to snap back into it. So it's kind of like you got to be disciplined a little bit, no matter how many shows you've done.
Well, that's the beauty of writing your own songs.
Yeah.
Is that if you write songs that you love, about your life or whatever, they're coming from the inside of your soul, then when you're playing them, you're fully invested and
that's right.
You get to live it, so you can't concentrate on something else.
That's right.
It's a trip. I mean, that's the magic. Like,
and that's what takes you back to writing always, like new songs and everything, because there's like steps to it, and then there's that sense of. I remember Billy Joe Shaver, I think, talked about it. He said I don't think he liked finishing a song because he liked the process of writing something. So he would take his time with songs because he knew that once he finished it or thought it was finished, then the fun wasn't there anymore. Then it's got to go and sing it. Yeah, it's like a cat playing with a mouse. It's like they don't go for the kill. They just play with it for a while.
Even when I write a song, it's like if the most discipline that I have to have is not just letting a line work, but waiting, keep messing with it, keep putting extra lines on, keep reworking that line until I get the chills. Right. And then I know the line works.
But that's something inside of you.
That's what's
fun.
When
you know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where you go, ooh. Yeah. It's like this. I imagine it's probably just like a drug.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, it's like a little high. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm thinking, like, with everything that's been going on recently with, like, living Fort Worth, moving to Abilene, because I haven't written in a while. Mm-hmm. So the batch of songs I'm going to record, I wrote them like around Thanksgiving of last year. So downtime, holidays, it's always a good time to write, especially because I'm away from family. I got a song title for you. What?
You said it earlier. You said Everything American.
Everything American?
You were talking about growing up listening to music.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
Everything. You said, no, Everything American. I thought, that's a song you can write. Oh. That only you can write.
True.
I mean.
With the perspective.
Of why it was Everything American and how that.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, it's great, man.
It's funny because since I became citizen, so that was 2016. So 5 years. That was something that was just as big at anything I did musically. Like your wildest dreams. It's becoming an American.
Yeah, getting your citizenship.
Yeah, and because it took 15 years to get there. So it was it's special.
Yeah, man, I would imagine that being a proud American it's
going to have a bad connotation.
Experience for you. Yeah, well, these days,
it's like a lot of, and I look at it, sometimes scratch my head because I get it, I understand it. I mean, I talk bad about friends sometimes because
I know, but you have an American would take it for granted.
Yeah, I think so.
You don't have that luxury.
But I love. I'm not delusional. There's a lot of things that are wrong. A lot of things that need to be fixed and might not ever be fixed. It might get worse before it gets better. But I don't know. For everything I've experienced, this is the place I can do it. Mm-hmm. There's always a rebound because it relates also to the way I've done things, which is the highs and the lows, and the highs and the lows. And when you think there's no opportunities left, bam, another one comes around. Like I didn't feel like in France I could get that. Not to diss on France, but it's not the same mentality. It's not that Wild West, like
there's not that sky's the limit dreamscape.
It's very very American. So it's almost the pride into the basically just the feeling, just the concept of what it's supposed to be.
That's why we have the flag here for you.
I know. And I looked earlier, the sticker said made in USA and not China. So I gave it a good job on that.
That's great.
So, random question. Do you think yourself in English or French?
Well, unless I talk to my folks for a while. Like if I talk to them on the phone for an hour, then I got to switch back. But I have to switch for them because I need to watch like a little French show before I talk to them.
So
I can find words.
You dream in American and in English now?
I don't want to sound stupid, but I don't think I talk much in my dreams. I don't remember most of my dreams, and I don't think I really talk in there. But if I have a dream we're on the road, you're not going to be speaking French.
Yeah.
So do you
go?
Bonjour, mon nom est Jackin Around.
Speak to you in French or English?
So, real quick, your move to Abilene. That's got to be a big adjustment, right?
I didn't just move to Abilene because why the hell not? It was thought out, and I think it's a great idea. Like it's very settled. It's not just a spur of the moment.
Right.
But when I read about those bluesmen that I love, and like not Lining Hopkins because he probably was a different kind of guy, but Mans Lipscomb, he was a farmhand his entire life. Fucking farmhand. He had kids, he had a family, he raised a family, he worked hard labor all his entire life. And when he starts picking guitar and singing, you're just like, dude, he's like on a different sphere than the ones that try to do music all the time and they eventually get better. And
like John Prine was a mailman for a long time before he wrote songs. Guy Clark fixed boats, and
but it's almost
the guy that was a mailman.
Mailman. That was Bukowski. The post office.
It was you just keep on using me until you use me up.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on his name, but he didn't start writing songs until he was in his 30s.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people that, because the only thing you really need to know as a songwriter,
because you have something to say,
is you have to know yourself. Because you have to write what you know.
The Shotgun Willie, you can't make a record if you ain't got nothing to say, and that's kind of what. It's kind of why I was talking about differentiating myself from the up and coming singer songwriters. Is the clean cuts, the no bruises, the brand new $3,000 Martins, and like I used to see them in Nashville, and I would go there. I remember this lady named Emma Grandillo. She used to work in a business, but she's older, and she would introduce me to people at Rose's place, remember? Taps and Tapas I used to go to all the time. She'd be, oh my God, this is so-and-so, he's amazing. Oh, this is Frenchy and he's amazing. I just started writing songs. I mean, I'm cool, whatever, I got things. And then I remember one night, when I get in my moods, I turn around, she's, hi, so-and-so, so amazing. And I turned around to Emma and I went, Emma, isn't that fucking amazing how everybody is a fucking John Lennon in this town? Nobody sucks. Nobody sucks. And she just kind of went like this. It's like, you can't be patting everybody in the back like, oh, you're great, you this and that. I understand, you want to encourage people, but don't encourage the ones that, that maybe need to be told, like,
That's a great town to where.
But that's what you
being your
eat shit,
own best critic.
Yeah.
Worst and best critic.
Yeah.
But like when people, I remember, I dealt with that by going, no, I'm not.
Yeah, right.
And I wouldn't say it until I thought I was.
Yeah, but you did that.
Yourself.
You did that, and but that's why I moved to Abilene. It's exotic to me. It's poetic because it's a real town. Like people say, a few friends, they go like, why? I said, well, first of all, because this is my life. This is my girl, and this is it. Man. But then also, what do you want me to do? Move back to Austin again for the third time, or move to Nashville? I would be completely lost if I moved to Nashville. I'm 40.
Yeah.
What am I going to do at 40 years old? I mean, yes, I can call people.
This is your home now.
This is my home. Texas is my home, and small town vibe. And, I still play with you, which is a priority, like a passion that I have just as much as me going and play my shows. Like I'm playing in Abilene. And, his place is called the Ice House. It's attached to it. And it's really cool. And, I'm going to play for 3 hours from 7 to 10. And, people take they do 3:45s. You know what I do? I do almost 2 hour over 90 minutes, and I take a 15, 20-minute break and then finish it. So
Yeah.
it's great practice.
I think your world's gonna change when you make a record. This record you're talking about making, how you want to make it, and you go out and open for somebody.
Get a crowd.
Play 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Give like that.
Get the best songs
Getting that other kind of
because when you go play
track.
those breweries and stuff, I love it, and it's been very helpful because you make $300. Come on, plus tips. You make $400, whatever. It adds up real quick. You do a couple. I get your schedule, and I'm like, all right, there's a hole here, there's a hole there, boom, 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 and it's fully employed. But
Hey, so I don't get in trouble with Kevin. Y'all got a show tonight, so let's wrap this up.
Hey, everybody, thanks for listening. It's Frenchy, French fry, forever. Forget me not, Fresca Freedom, Froggy, Frenchy. Kevin, see you.
Well, thanks for having me. That was a blast. So,
I love hanging out with you, French. I love being with you in a band. Yep. I love hanging with you on the bus.
And hopefully we'll do it as long as we can.
And I love the fact that you're like the meatball that rolled off the table and ended up on an entire adventure.
meatball that fell off the table and put back in a plate.
That was sick, bud.
I love you.
I love you too.
Hey, don't forget we have a show to take off somewhere.
I know, man.
9 o'clock.
What time is the show tonight?
I think 9.